It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. Back on game week, Arkansas at Tennessee. We just wrapped up Bobby Petrino's Monday press conference. It's kind of wild seeing him there as the head coach, and I want to believe everything he says. You know, he's just kind of got that kind of personality. But we're going to talk about the Arkansas-Tennessee game. We're going to get caught up with the latest in the coaching search. We'll talk about everything surrounding Arkansas basketball, including the event the other day and the event coming up Sunday in Hot Springs. We'll be joined by Kevin Bohannon and Connor Goodson. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash Champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
I love how the Crain Team makes it easy for you. I also want to tell you today is the last day for Hawg Sports at 2 months for $1. So today's Monday, 10/6/25, and this will end at 11 o'clock tonight. So if you want to sign up for 2 months for just $1, follow along with this coaching search, get all the latest breaking news, the most entertaining way possible. Today is the day to sign up. If you like what we do at Hawg Sports, you like all the other stuff that we do, you know, my segment on Drive Time or The Zone or any of Danny's stuff, Morning Mayhem, all that kind of stuff. If you just like what we do, support what we do, come check us out at Hawg Sports. We would really appreciate it. That's the best way to support what we do and allow us to continue doing it. So certainly thank everybody for all that. Okay, let's hop right into it now. Where do we begin today? So Bobby Petrino just wrapped up his press conference. And again, it's just like when you're listening to Bobby Petrino talk, because he's so direct and matter of fact, you know, it's just different than Pittman. You know, Pittman was very laid back, and you're not going to get like you're not going to get any I don't knows from Bobby Petrino. But I don't know. He just gives you a lot of good information. He doesn't overdo it with, coach speak and things like that. He's not going to tell you what the game plan is, but he's still going to give you some insight into what they're doing and what they're thinking. I thought some of the most interesting things, and this goes kind of back to what I remember seeing with Bobby Petrino practices. It's been a while since I've seen an actual Bobby Petrino ran practice, but what I remember about those and what I remember Tyler Wilson saying about it is how everything is revolved around the quarterback, and you could just kind of see the flow of practice going. And as Petrino said today, he feels like their number one goal at the top of the list is to get their quarterback to outplay the other team's quarterback. And if they can do that, they feel like they've got a great chance to win. So that's priority one in a lot of ways. He continued talking about some of the struggles on defense, and like, I believe in getting in a good stance, which sounds kind of damning to the coaching of Travis Williams and the other assistant coaches, because just saying that, like, I believe it starts with getting in a good stance. That sounds pretty basic, but he pointed to some things like alignment as being an issue. Alignment and getting ready before the snap so you're in a good stance. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Obviously, they've made some hires, additions to the staff and move Chris Wilson up, obviously Jay Hayes, who he has a relationship back with at Idaho. So there's going to be some changes on defense. We'll see. But the number one thing, and I asked him this in the press conference, we'll play a clip here in just a moment, but I asked him about that. How much of it is fundamentals, how much of it is scheme, and how much of it is is effort, because a lot of it's effort. They have to have guys going 100 miles an hour, and he echoed that. We've talked about that a lot on the show lately. If you mess up, you have to mess up going 100 miles an hour. There can never be any kind of attitude that somebody else has it. Somebody else is going to make this tackle. He's all the way over there. You have to fly to the ball. If you do that, and he's right, if you do that, good things will happen. Even if you're not in this place you're supposed to be, if you're running 100 miles an hour at it, sometimes things have a way of working themselves out. You force turnovers, you get big hits, you gang tackle. Those are the kinds of things that Arkansas hadn't really been doing. So Arkansas, let's get to this first before we go to just a little 3-minute clip of Bobby Petrino, like I like to do, just cut up. The kickoff time for Arkansas and Texas A&M has been announced. That's going to be October 18th, obviously. That'll be 2:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time in Fayetteville on ESPN. So good time slot. It's not a night game, but that's a good time slot, 2:30 in Fayetteville, ESPN. Should be nice weather for that. That's the day before the birthday. Arkansas doesn't have the best record on my birthday. I went over this a little bit more in detail. You can read about this on HawgSports, but there's a lot of people who was asking about the Blueprint Sports Arkansas Edge deal. And I reported last week that because all this came out about the Oregon State stuff, about this awful deal that they had with Blueprint Sports. And I think it's just a matter of time before it's dissolved or absorbed. Arkansas Edge, they have one employee right now, but I think it's just a matter of time. Obviously, things didn't work out the way Arkansas wanted it to, but Arkansas's deal wasn't what Oregon State's was. In fact, the last person I talked to, 2 people about it, the last person I talked to about it says he doesn't even think the the Oregon State deal sounds real. But Arkansas it's 15%, which if everything is going right, like if they make it easier, if they are able to raise more money through their marketing and all the campaigns they have, and they have an app that's like it tracks, like you can enter your responsibilities, your deals and stuff, and you can check your payments and stuff. But if all that stuff happens, it's easier, it's more profitable, then 15% isn't a bad deal. I think the problem with it is those things didn't generate a bunch of interest and excitement and stuff. And I think a lot of fans just weren't willing to support a team when they felt like maybe there should be a change, and there is now. But anyway, that's the deal with Blueprint Sports. I've got more details. There's a few other things with their package with Blueprint and Arkansas Edge, but basically 15%, and that never came off the athletes. Like if an athlete was promised X amount of dollars, they got X amount of dollars, not less 15%. That was just additional money that they had to raise, and that's, overhead and all that stuff. But anyway, just want to get that out there. It's not a bad deal, 15%. That seems reasonable if all these other things are being met, which not necessarily feel like they were being met. Again, 2 months for $1, last day. Don't forget to sign up for that. A couple changes on the depth chart. You had Courtney Crutchfield has moved up the depth chart. Also, let me know how my volume is here, because I have been tinkering with it. The last guy said all he could hear was me spitting and slurping my spit. Somebody in the comments was like, well, I don't want that. But I do want to make sure my levels are right. So I've been tinkering with that. I'm at right in the middle, 50% today. So since we moved over to StreamYard, we have a little bit of sometimes it gets too loud, sometimes it gets too quiet. All right, but Courtney Crutchfield is listed as a backup wide receiver, and Bobby Petrino talked today about how important it is going to be, to get him more involved, because he does have so much talent. Said he had a little bit too much adipose tissue around the gut when he got there, and that's stuff that I'd heard. He came in out of shape. So obviously he's in a lot better shape now, but I thought that was an interesting. Did you have adipose tissue on your bingo card today from Bobby Petrino? And I asked him about it when after the press conference ended. I went up and I was like, adipose tissue, huh? It's like, yeah, that's what my dad used to call it. Yeah, I'm really excited to get out there and start practicing, and it's really I got to brush off my Bobby Petrino impersonation. Got to get that going again. We're going to see him a lot more. All right, enough of me doing Bobby Petrino. How about Bobby Petrino doing Bobby Petrino? Here's 3 minutes.
Coach, you told us last week that you're going to have to try to figure out kind of what the base defense was going to be, that kind of thing. I'm curious, over the last week, do you like what the progress you made on that side of the ball, figuring that stuff out?
I like the way that we've worked. I think the defensive players did a really nice job of coming out on the field with a good attitude, put a lot of effort into the practices that we had. We're very attentive to detail. I thought the coaching staff did a good job of really trying to work hard on the details of what we're doing. So it was a good week of practice.
Coach, how much of the struggles on defense have been scheme or fundamentals or effort?
A combination of all, is kind of how we looked at it, and then we've tried to just put it behind us and let's say, hey, tear off the rearview mirror, let's look forward, and this is what we need to do. Not so much of what we haven't been doing, but what we need to do. And we need to do a better job of getting aligned quickly, getting our eyes where they belong, and everybody getting in a good stance. I'm a big guy of stance. I think that football is, starting point is that I'm in a proper stance and my eyes are right. So we've been drilling that and working hard on it, and they've improved on it. And then you got to get off. If you're a D lineman, you got to beat the offensive lineman to his technique. Usually up front, whoever gets to their technique first has a great advantage to win that play, and it's really about one-play battles between the O-line and the D-line. Our linebackers are working hard at their eyes and what we're seeing and then fitting properly, whether I'm A-gap fit on this particular look or I'm a scrape fit on this look. We've got to be in the right spots, and then our secondary, our safety's got to work off of that. So sometimes if the linebackers are out of the right spot, then the secondary doesn't know how to fit, where to go, and that's where you get the big plays and the explosive plays. So that's kind of the starting point. I think it's important we all know how to shed blocks. We're working hard at shedding blocks. And then when you mention the effort, it's running full speed to the ball. Not running to the ball, running full speed to the ball. And we get all 11 guys doing that. Then good things happen. You get more hits, you get more turnovers. It just good things happen when everyone sprints to the football.
How much have you changed what practices actually look like and how they're run in this first week?
Yeah, they've changed. I've always believed this, and I think it's because when I was first young in the profession, the guy told me once, you can only coach what you know. And what I know is the schedule that I like and the way it goes. And so there's some change in that, and there will be. I'm not a big 4-day-a-week practice guy, although we're going to get out there today and sweat and work hard and go. What I normally like to do after the game is bring them back on Sunday night, watch the video, let the vets or the guys that played in the game get out and run. It gets the soreness out, and then practice the young guys and get them to improve knowing the offense and defense and working through that on Sunday night practice. Give them Monday off, and then come back and have a good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule of how we work and prepare. So we'll do that after this game. But we have to get out there because we've had 3 days off and really get out there and sweat and, do a quick hour practice and get off the field today.
Blakeman's Fine Jewelry is proud to be the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks and are thrilled to support the team, and that includes providing beautifully crafted pieces for the U of A homecoming court. Built on tradition since 1987, Blakeman's has been Northwest Arkansas's trusted destination for exceptional jewelry and personalized service. Visit them at their brand new location, 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway, Rogers, Arkansas, 72758. Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, where Arkansas gets engaged. One second, please. Dog's going nuts. All right, so let's look real quick at what we've got with Tennessee. This is a very potent offense, as you might expect, with Josh Heupel. Tennessee is number one in the Southeastern Conference in scoring offense at 51 points per game. 536.4 total yards, which isn't too far off what Arkansas, 514.6. Missouri is number one, by the way, at 547.6 yards per game. Tennessee is number one in passing offense at 337.2 yards per game. A lot of that is because Joey Aguilar is 291.8 yards per game. He has a 163.98 efficiency rating. And Rushing offense, Tennessee, not bad there either. 6th in the conference at 199.2 rushing yards per game. Scoring defense, a little bit different story. Arkansas giving up dead last at 30 points per game. Tennessee's giving up 29 points per game. So maybe we see a really high-scoring game. I think that would probably benefit Arkansas if it did get up pretty high scoring. Arkansas is dead last in total defense at 425 yards per game allowed, and Tennessee is 14th, 373.4 yards per game allowed. Passing defense, Tennessee dead last, 258.2, just one above Arkansas at 257 yards per game. And then Arkansas is last in rushing defense, 168 yards per game allowed, and Tennessee ranking 10th at 115.2 rushing yards per game. Okay. Guys, I'm going to have to shut this dog up for a second. Hold on. All right, apologies for that. Whoops. On a seam. All right, so second week in a row I've had to get up in the middle of the show. So obviously there's a lot of smoke going on right now about Rhett Lashley. And from what I hear, there's people in this state who have deep pockets who really want him, particularly in Northwest Arkansas. And I've even been told as much to say, the money and financial support is there to make a run at Rhett Lashley. I've heard different things from people who talk to him pretty regularly via text and, you know, and just talking, that like one person says he would definitely be interested in the Arkansas job. Another person says he wants the Arkansas job, but he wants it deeper into his career. Like he wants to finish his career out at Arkansas or you know, I've heard that. I've heard people say like, as recently as like 18 months ago that he's not interested in the Arkansas job, which also could be just kind of what a coach says when he already has a job that's in a pretty good situation. So I have heard a lot about that. I'm still very high on John Sumrall. I'm very intrigued to see what Bobby Petrino does at Arkansas. I think like to make this like a whole 30 for 30 type of situation, like if Bobby Petrino comes full circle, this would be one of the greatest stories in sports, at least definitely in Arkansas. But for the way things ended, and I can remember I covered Bobby Petrino from the day he was hired till the day he disappeared. And I've covered him obviously the last year and a half at Arkansas. To see a guy like that come full circle, would just be, I don't even know what the word is. It would be surreal to see something like that. I'll tell you what I love today, and I always made this point about Petrino because he's always so punctual, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that he respects my time and every other person's time, and I was always brought up like that. My dad would get furious at me when I would go work at my dad had a furniture plant for years and years, and I would go there and work in the summers, wrought iron furniture. Hard work. That's why I always say like this, and Danny's spot on when he says we don't work hard, because Danny knows what hard work is too. We don't have hard work. It's not hard work, but we work hard at it. That's kind of the job we're in. But, man, those days when I was in there bending steel, covered in grease every day, I mean, from my childhood on through college, that's what I did every summer. And I just remember I would be in charge of getting there and unlocking the place. And, man, if I was late or something, whew, man, he would get so pissed at me. My dad would just, because everybody was counting on me. So Petrino is like that too. I remember too, my dad, like if an employee showed up, like it's 8:00 when work starts, they showed up late, he'd tell them to go home and think about their job. You know, so that was always instilled in me very early about time, being on time. And Petrino has that. He walked through that door today at 11:59. For a 12 o'clock press conference. And he did that every single day when he was at Arkansas before. 11:59, walked through that door. Love that. So obviously you're intrigued with Petrino. I mean, gosh, guys, there's so many coaches out there. There's so many rumors going on right now too. Nick Saban's been in town as a consultant or what? Like, why would you not go to Nick Saban? Why would he be like, yeah, I'll fly to Arkansas? Like Nick Saban's just flying to Arkansas? Or are you going to go see Nick Saban? I'm not saying that you wouldn't consult with him. Is he flying to Arkansas? Jimbo Fisher is another one. Jimbo Fisher gets $7.1 million from Texas A&M to not coach there. Guaranteed over 10 years, $77 million from Texas A&M. So maybe the thought there is like if you could get Jimbo Fisher, which I know how fans feel about that idea. But if you could get him, like, he's already making a lot of money. He's doing fine. Another very popular one is John Gruden, of course, who has said he wants to get in the SEC into coaching. I just don't know. Like, do you take would you rather have John Gruden or Bobby Petrino? I know everybody's been intrigued with John Gruden. John Gruden, because he talks like this. Arkansas Razorbacks. He's very pointed about how he says things. People like that. People like Chucky. I get it. Is he a better coach than Bobby Petrino is, though? Does he have the experience that Bobby Petrino has in college, at least? Similar age, I don't know. I think about things like that, obviously. What else? What else has been popular? Obviously, we've talked a lot about Rhett Lashley. I'm very intrigued with John Sumrall, as I've mentioned. Golish at South Florida has been a popular name that people have brought up. There's been rumors that the Missouri offensive coordinator has interviewed for this job, and I'm not saying don't hire a coordinator. Hunter Yurachek has made it quite clear that he wants a proven head coach, so it would have to fall down. It fell down last time. I don't think it's going to fall down to a Pittman type candidate this time, but it would have to fall down. I mean, Dan Lanning was a coordinator. Kirby Smart was a coordinator when both those guys got their first head coaching job. Jeff Lebby was a coordinator when he got his first head coaching job. The difference is like those guys were at Georgia, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, a little bit different, right? Brent Venables got his first head coaching job and was a coordinator. He was at Clemson. You know what I mean? Like they're at blue blood programs as coordinators. Not that this guy, Kirby Moore is not going to be a good coach. I've watched video of him. I like, at least how he acts in his interviews and stuff, and they certainly produce a lot of offense. But I don't know if that's the direction Arkansas is going. I don't even know if Arkansas and Hunter Yurachek is actually actively interviewing candidates right now. I don't know if they're even at that stage yet where they're actively interviewing people versus breaking things down, getting all their ducks in a row. I don't know. But anyway, that's some of the rumors that are going around right now. Let me clean up a couple of my tabs. Okay. We're going to get to Danny West here in just a couple minutes. That's pretty much the main rumor mill stuff going on right now. It's always fun. We're going to get to your questions too, so be sure to get those in. If you're on the HawgSports Razor's Edge message board, I think we've covered just about everything that I wanted to get to. You can check out the 2.0 coaching search hot board. Ryan Silverfield is a guy that I brought up recently. It's funny because whenever I bring up somebody, people are like, "Oh my gosh, are you getting us ready for this hire or something? Are you trying to talk us into this?" And I'm just like asking the question, like, what do you think of Ryan Silverfield? I mean, they beat Tulsa 45-7 over the weekend, but everybody kind of equates. It's interesting how people equate jobs. People will say they don't like Rhett Lashley because it's just Chad Morris 2.0, right? He's coming from SMU, so it's got to be just like Chad Morris. And then Ryan Silverfield, you had Fuente there who took over a struggling Memphis program and did really big things. And then he went to North Carolina, lasted like 4 years there and got fired. Mike Norvell had a lot of success at Memphis, went to Florida State. They've obviously been very up and down. They're a little more up right now, but they obviously were really down last year. And so Silverfield is just kind of on those coattails and just stepped into a really good situation at Memphis, and he's going to flame out just like anybody else did. But he also doesn't talk like this. He's kind of nice at the podium, so doesn't excite people enough. Jamie Chadwell was the hottest name. Everybody a couple years ago would have fell over themselves to get Jamie Chadwell, but last I checked anyway, he's 1-4 this year. So he's not having the year that you need. So now he sucks. We don't want him. It's interesting how that plays out. It's all about timing. All about timing. And Jeff Traylor's another one. Jeff Traylor's not having the year. A couple years ago, maybe you talk about Jeff Traylor a little bit more, but he's not having the year you want to have right now. Let's bring in Danny West. You ready, Danny? Where's my graphic? Okay. All right. First, we want to talk about Ozarks Go here. For those of you looking for fast, reliable, consistent internet service, check out our friends at Ozarks Go. Available in Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, ever expanding. Think north of the tunnel, 479-684-4900. Or reach out to them at ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. And when you reach out to them on the phone, you're going to talk to somebody local because they're a local company. I had a dream the other day that my internet quit working, and I had to unplug it. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to say that anymore, but it was just a dream. Woke up and it was just a dream. So still have not unplugged and replugged my router. I'll tell you when it happens. Even if it happens, the fact that it's been over 4.5 years since I first plugged it in with Ozarks Go, I think is pretty remarkable. Danny, how's it going?
Hey, brother. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. For those of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at Danny West 24/7. And man, he's just peachy right now. He's having a good time. He's writing tons of decommitment stories and just getting ready for writing a bunch of commitment stories that are going to follow at some point. But Danny, I think that brighter times are on the horizon for you. I think a new coach comes in here, breath of fresh air, new way of doing things. We get past these commitments, decommitment stories, start and get some commitments. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with that. I agree with you. But, I think people are a little bit confused about that whole decommitment thing. People think I hate that. Dude, it's just part of the job. And, every time I post one of those stories, Trey, I got probably 10 people coming at me saying, no one cares. This doesn't matter. This was expected.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that, but we're still going to write the stories.
Still going to do the job.
It's part of the timeline. And, 10 years when I look back at this class, I'm going to want to know, because I'm a nerd like that. I want to know how it happened. So
right. It's important to be able to look back on that. Yeah. It's important to document, to timeline, all of that kind of stuff. You want to be able to look back at a recruit's profile when he's in the NFL or something and say, oh, he was committed to Arkansas at one point. What happened?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It was probably money if I had to guess, but a lot more. I would, they're down to 15, buddy, commitments so far. That's 12 that they've lost. And it started really September 11th with Bryce Gilmore. Of course, 3 of these guys came off the board before this losing streak even started. And, they had their own reasons, whatever. But 9 in the last, since Coach Pittman has been released. And, there's 15 left. I would expect more of these to come off the board. But my point is, Trey, I think it says a lot about some of these guys that they're still holding on to. I talked to one of them this morning. Maybe he won't mind. Jalen Copeland told me basically, man, I'm just trying to hold on because Arkansas is where I want to be. And it's easy, I think, sometimes for the fan to sit back and say, just cut them all loose. Let's hit the reset button. Mm-hmm. Well, some of these kids are really, really wanting to be Razorbacks, and we can't just forget about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I know there was another recruit who wanted to stay committed to Arkansas, and his parents were kind of just like, look, you don't want to be left out in the cold. Like, you got to do what's best for you and open it up again. I'm sure there's a lot of tales like that. But when I remember, and recruiting's different now, but when Bielema was here, every single guy that was committed, decommitted, forced to decommit most cases, but decommitted when that coaching change happened, except for the in-state guys.
Yep.
And maybe a junior college or two. But I think that was just largely because junior college guys didn't really have anywhere to go, so you made room for them, whatever. But the in-state guys back then, you didn't want to piss off anybody inside the state.
Yep.
I mean, you couldn't.
I think they're worried about that at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this is just part of it. The decommits are rolling, and there's going to be a lot of commitments. It should be a really interesting transfer portal season. I've made this point before too, Danny. And I asked Hunter Yurachek this question specifically starting off because to me it's kind of damning on him if you context that Hunter didn't make a change last year. And we talked about they went 4-8. The next year they go 6-6, and that's supposed to be the miraculous turnaround for Arkansas football. To me, like I'd said before, they needed to win 8 games. Like I thought 8 games is a turnaround, but the context you have to remember is the calendar. Firing a coach last year and the year before that and the year before that in December meant that you were going to lose all your players, and all the guys that were in the transfer portal were going to sign somewhere else. I just think it makes it easier to fire a coach. And I remember when Sam Pittman, Danny, when he was saying how much he liked the challenge, the change in the schedule.
And it cost him.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't cost him, but
it's part of it.
It was part of it.
It's part of it. It makes it a lot easier to have a change because now you go back to the idea of you get a staff in place almost entirely.
Yeah.
And you're able to actually bring in, if you have an advanced scouting department also in place, then you've got a lot of, you've got a lot of tape, got a lot of video, got a lot of breakdowns on the guys that'll be available in the portal.
That's right. And, one of two things is about to happen, most likely. Either Bobby's going to go out there and upset Tennessee and or A&M, and we're going to see some of these guys continue to stick around, and Bobby's going to make it interesting by, winning games on the field and giving these guys something to think about that have already jumped ship. Or they're going to go out and get smoked the next 2 weeks, and we're going to start seeing the remainder of these 15 slowly, if not quickly, come off the board.
Yeah, they get smoked. I mean, what is Tennessee, 12th right now?
Yeah, something like
Texas
that.
A&M's 6th or something.
10, yeah.
So you've got both of those. Yeah, you get smoked in these next 2 games, and people will start seeing, the writing on the wall.
So when we talk about, kind of the timeline of when exactly it's going to get better, everybody wants to know that. I do too, but you really have to let these, I would say, first 2 games play out really, just because both opponents are top 10, top 15, whatever they are. Man, if you go out there and play them close this weekend, which I kind of think might happen, Trey.
Might.
But, yeah. And then
going to go one of 2 ways.
Yeah, that's right. They always do. It's either going to be close heartbreak or, maybe a blowout. We'll see. But few and far between. But it is on the road, buddy. It's coming out of a bye, which, Tennessee is too. That's part of it. But they were last year too. And
hey, Pittman teams play good on the road, Danny.
That's right.
I mean, it's not a Pittman team anymore, but it was, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they come home and they lose double-digit game. Like the last 4 or 5 games, I guess they lost by double digits against, noteworthy programs. But on the road, it's a bunch of 1-point losses or 1-score losses. That's Danny, you've been making a case for some coaches. How many of those you done now? I know you did Gruden most recently. Dan Mullen
started with Summerall and then went to and I again I let the board pick it. I started with Summerall because he was first on our hot board, right? But then I put it to a vote and put a poll on there and just kind of going by those results on who's next. We're going to probably end up doing maybe 6 or 7 of them at least. But done 3 so far. You were right. Coach Gruden's the last one I did, and that one probably. Man, I think a lot of people really turned on to John Summerall, not because of my stupid little make a case story, but the Gruden, it was really decisive, polarizing almost, how different some of the responses were to that one. So, I've had people come at me and say, man, what are you doing? You're promoting this guy. And clearly I'm not. It says at the beginning of all these stories, this is not a promotion. I'm doing it for several of them, right? So, we're getting through that, but there's a lot to like about all of them, Biddy. Starting with Summerall, that's kind of been the one you've talked about forever. And, it took me a while to kind of, I'm not going to say warm up to him because I know Craddock and, I know what he's said about him. So I've always kind of been a fan of him, I guess. But up until recently, now I'm starting to really warm up to that idea. And then, of course, Gruden, it was kind of a joke over the summer. People would bring him up, and if it goes south for Pittman, maybe we look at that. And I was kind of out there saying it's not the craziest thing, in the world from a financial standpoint. Now, I heard you talk about it, comparing him to Bobby, who's the better coach. I don't know who can get the better players right now is really
who can build the support that gets that swelling of support and resources and all that stuff. And it's not just about NIL. I don't know where we're going with NIL, Danny. Like, somebody told me recently, it's not just about moving forward. It's not just going to be about how much you can raise in NIL. It's about how much you can get through the clearinghouse also. We'll see how strict they are on the NIL side of things moving forward. We're going to see. We're going to find out if NIL is going to be as big a role as it has been in the past with revenue sharing or not. I think it's still very
pretty quickly too, because it sounds like certain schools, and I'm not going to get involved, but it sounds like some of them are not even caring about that clearinghouse thing. They're saying, we're going to keep doing what we got going on, and we'll let y'all catch up. And if it costs us, it costs us. But
yeah,
I think that's just a roll of the dice, thinking maybe nobody's really got the power to, hand down punishment anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in recent history, we've talked about, I mentioned that on my last walk and talk, just about Baylor, all the stuff that happened at Baylor with, and they bounced right back. Penn State, all the Sandusky stuff, they bounced back. Well, they lost a couple this year already, but they bounced back. Ohio State with Tackgate, they bounced right back, had an undefeated season the next year, and then won the national championship a couple years later. They were on probation during the year, but
Auburn went through it.
Auburn had an 11-0 season.
A couple of them.
Auburn had an 11-0 season back in 92. Was that 92?
93.
93, yeah. Terry Bowden's first year there. They went 11-0. But yeah, they didn't win a national championship, but I'm sure people enjoyed those games.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I went to one of them. I watched Auburn and Georgia play that year in Athens. I watched old Desire. So, anything else to add, Danny, before we cut you off?
Not too much, man. It's going to get better, like you said. It's just a matter of when, and we got to let it play out. But it's going to get better, and don't feel bad for me in the meantime. I got deer season heating up here, and a couple of decommitment stories ain't going to kill me.
Yeah, I can see down the road for you, Danny. Brighter times, anyway.
Absolutely. It's
all right, brother.
All right,
everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow him at Danny West on X. And if you want to read his content, most of it is VIP. While there are a lot of decommitment stories going right now, there's a lot to come. And most of, as I mentioned, Danny's stuff is VIP. So you want to sign up at HawgSports, HawgSports.com. I'd like to tell you about our friends over at Walker Brothers. Walker Brothers, if you can see below, whoops, I just took it off. You can see below here the ticker. It's now the Walker Brothers ticker. Appreciate them for all their support. If you're looking for fine menswear and you're struggling because there's not a lot of great places, I mean, let's be honest, there are not a lot of places to go out. Some of the stuff, like I go in the mall, and some of the stuff I see in the mall, I'm just like, man, I wouldn't be caught dead in that. What are they doing? Walker Brothers is not like that. It's classy. It's fun. You can get a suit tailored. You can get cologne, shoes, all kinds of great stuff, golf gear. Really nice, sharp looking clothes. And I always say, my wife always told me like a long time ago, she's like, honey, it's time for you to start dressing your age. Maybe stop worrying about your t-shirt game so much. But Walker Brothers have you covered there. They've got the Crazy Hog logos on Peter Millar. I saw a buddy of mine with that on the other day. Looks super sharp. Love the Peter Millar golf. The Walker Brothers have the Curly Tail Hog logo on all their stuff. Peter Millar, Johnny O, Horns Legend, Divot Sportswear. You can reach out, or you can visit them at 577 Millsap Road, number 6 in Fayetteville. They've been there for a long time. Or their brand new location, huge, beautiful store, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers, Arkansas. Walker Brothers, fine menswear. All right. Oops, I almost said Danny, but it's Connor. So Connor has been following this basketball team. What's up, Connor?
What's up, Trey?
Saw Connor up there at, I keep wanting to say Paradise at the Palace. I don't know why I want to say that, but primetime at the Palace on, was that Friday? That was Friday, wasn't it?
Yep, Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night. I thought it was a great crowd. It was more than I expected. Even the laser light show, because I can remember back when they added the laser light show years ago, and they're like, man, that hog's going to look like it's running and taking off. I was just like, man, this is super corny. But I thought it was pretty well done. I thought the stuff where they were writing the Arkansas Razorbacks with the laser light show, I thought that was really cool. I know that there were at least 15,000 tickets claimed. I don't know how many were there, but there was a lot of people. I mean, it was basically a horse shoe around the lower bowl, and then they had the stage and everything on this end. but I thought it was pretty great. What do you think?
I thought it was a really good event. Obviously, from a media standpoint, you want a little bit more like things that you can analyze and look into, and
not a
not
lot of
get that. Yeah, we're not going to get that from 3-point slam dunk contest, and that 8 minutes of scrimmage looked more like an NBA All-Star Weekend event than any kind of actual scrimmaging. But I thought it was really good, and it's a good introduction for the fans to these players who, there's always, especially nowadays in college sports, there's so much roster turnover and a lot of new faces. Obviously, Arkansas returns 4 key guys, but some of the newer guys, the freshmen, the 2 international big men that they just added, fans might not be super, in tune with that, especially more casual fans. They may not know the story of some of these guys, and this is an event that gets them a little bit more invested and wanting to follow along to some of these other guys, and you can kind of get a name to a face and recognize guys. And then after the event, they let all the fans on the floor, and you could go up and talk to the team, take pictures. Cal was signing autographs, taking pictures. It was a really good event, especially from a fan standpoint. And I think Cal thought it was a hit because, he said he wanted to make it a tradition. And I hope stuff like this continues on for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a hit. I thought it was really well done. The production value of everything. What stood out to me though is a lot of foreign players. You're talking about Bosnia and Lebanon and Angola. I thought that was interesting when it felt like they just all came out one after another. But what also stood out to me, I think 5 guys on this roster, Connor, are 6'10" or better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing. I think back to the summer whenever after they announced that Elmir Zafic and Paulo Semedo had signed, they took a picture in the practice facility at midcourt of all the guys kind of arm to arm. And Calipari, I think the caption was like, "This team is long. This team has so much length." And it's not just those big men. It's Malik Thomas has a lot more length with that wingspan. Billy Richmond, obviously, Carter Knox, even Darius Acuff, sneaky length. The guy that I haven't really even talked about much leading into this, who I think could really contribute on this team and is kind of a dark horse for getting a lot of good minutes. Isaiah Seeley, the Springdale native, he's kind of been an afterthought, especially with Malik Thomas, Darius Acuff. This dude has a lot of length. He does a lot of things right. And I think he's a guy that's going to really be able to help them that I didn't really foresee originally when he signed as that being the case.
Yeah. You watch any football over the weekend, Connor?
I tried to a little bit, yeah. Didn't watch much yesterday, but I did Saturday. I tried to absorb as much as possible just to enjoy it because we don't get a lot of off weeks in the season. And, it felt like a little bit of a down slate, I guess, but it was kind of fun to watch UCLA, Penn State. And then
it wasn't as good as the weekend before, obviously.
No.
But for guys like us, when we're, so much centers around the Arkansas football schedule, just to have a weekend off and just sit around. I was upstairs. I had the 100-inch upstairs, and I've got, the 4 games on at once, the multicast. So I really enjoyed it. That UCLA game was just like, when they went for it on their own end on 4th and 1, I was just like, what are you doing? Why would you? But they pulled it out. And then, the Florida thing, the big thing with that was Billy Napier calling them out and denying of the 10-second runoff. But what's important to note there, and I was right there because I didn't realize the clock had stopped. I knew that Texas would, decline that penalty and everything, but I didn't know the clock stopped. So the fact that he called timeout was no big deal at all,
Yeah, I remember we texted in our little group messages. I was like, "What is Billy doing there? Like, is he trying to get fired?" And all the tweets after the game were just like, "He still deserves to be fired. I don't care." And then obviously in the press conference, it comes out, there was a little bit more there that it didn't really matter. So
you felt like coming out of that game, it was like Billy Napier just beat a top 10 team and hurt himself in the process. But somebody in my comments also was like, that's why these guys get the big bucks and armchair quarterbacks are sitting in armchairs. And I was just like, yeah, Billy's been nailing it.
Yeah, for
Good
sure.
call.
Yeah, it's a great example to use.
Yeah, but I think that's important for Arkansas. Like if you're an Arkansas fan right now, you need to be rooting on Florida. You need to be rooting on Kentucky. You need to be rooting on Auburn. You don't want those teams to have coaching changes also. That changes the pecking order.
Yeah, I watched the second half of the Kentucky-Georgia game, and man, it felt a lot like last week like if I was kind of putting myself into Kentucky fan shoes, which I don't really like to do much. That's a scary place to be. But I was just watching. It's like it kind of felt like Arkansas Notre Dame in a way from a week prior, to where it's just like you can kind of look at it, just look in the eyes of the Kentucky players, and it looked like guys that were letting go of the ropes. And if you're an Arkansas fan, you definitely don't want to see that, especially if you're a John Summerall fan and you're a big proponent of him, because that's his alma mater, and that's a place that I think that he would probably like to go than a lot of other places in the SEC.
There's been talk though, like Connor, with like revenue sharing at Kentucky, like they may put a bunch more money into basketball than anybody else, and like
doesn't Stoops have a pretty significant buyout too? Or
I mean, I probably, but the thing with Stoops, like, it's hard to have a couple of bad years in a row for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Stoops definitely took that program to a level that it had never been before. But his flirtation with the Texas A&M job and then them pulling the rug out from under him, I mean, it's hard to recover from that as a coach. You know, even with with Houston Nutt, when he flirted with Nebraska and ended up staying at Arkansas, and then there was a brief flirtation the next year with LSU, and it was just like, Houston, we did this before. Like, we renegotiated everything. We're not doing this again. And
like
he lost some people. He lost some people.
Yeah. It's like getting on to a kid, like, okay, you did it once. We're going to learn from it. Now don't do it again. And if they start to do it again, then you're really stirring it. That's kind of how it felt. Yeah. And but even if, people say it's all good, we're putting it behind it, there's still going to be people that are jaded when something like that happens. And there's people that you lose that you'll never get back as long as you're there. And I think that's where I see a lot of fans are with Napier and Stoops also. That's just like, we've kind of done this before. Yeah, they'll win a couple big games, or they'll beat somebody they shouldn't. But like, what is the overall ceiling? And you're probably going to see a lot of pressure on athletic departments, especially this cycle, to make some changes that maybe they weren't really keen on making, and they were maybe more leaning towards kind of keeping things going a certain direction. But people are going to put pressure on it to make moves, especially now when the stakes are so high and the opportunities there to just like that, you can become a contender.
Yeah. Connor Goodson joining us. You can follow him at Connor Goodson on X, read all of his content at HawgSports. Connor, I think there's some fans out there that like sucking, like they need it in their life, like so they can let out all their anger and frustration at their television. Like that Blueprint deal, when that came out about Oregon State, and I replied as like, from a very reliable source, this is not the deal that Arkansas has. And then just there's a ton of comments like, no, we're terrible, we suck, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not buying that one bit, this. And then today when I posted, I talked to somebody else. And like they broke it down. It's like it's 15%, which sounds more reasonable if everything else is being done, which I'm not so sure it was. But the comments just like nobody had anything to say about it. It's just like I think some people thrive on like, if we're going to suck, we're going to be the best at it. We're going to be the best at sucking.
And let's be honest, there's a lot of people who build up narratives and have a lot of narratives that
people like being right.
To be true. They like to be right. And now I think that there's a fine line. You can. Like we use specifically with the NIL thing, you're not saying that it's all sunshine and rainbows. It is not. No. You've been very vocal about that. Danny's been vocal about it.
There's plenty of stuff to bitch about without making stuff up. Yeah,
there is. And I think that a lot of times people will just use a little bit of evidence here, one certain situation that may not be 100% true. We'll spin it to make it a bigger deal than it actually is. And it helps that narrative and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot. There's some guy that follows me on Twitter that I looked, I'm not going to air him out or anything, but I looked at his feed and he replies to a lot of different tweets, but literally going back like 6-7 months, he did not have a single positive tweet about any of his sports teams. He follows a bunch of different sports teams. He's a fan. Everything was negative. Everything was, we got to fire somebody on this. And I'm just like, is there anything that brings you joy in life, man? Like, come on, you got to be able to find something. And I think that there's a lot of people that thrive in that. And I'm just like, I don't understand that. So like, you need to look
I'll say this. I'll tell you this though, Connor. If a new coach is hired and you want to start complaining about it and breaking it down, and you want to be, there's always the dark siders and the sunshine pumpers, whatever, dark pumpers, sunshine, whatever. There's all those different kind of factions. If you want to complain about it, then you're going to be right eventually. Like you are eventually, this coach is going to get fired. Either he's going to resign, retire. If he's great, possibly leave for another job, which is very rare. But you look across the SEC at probably what, 13 out of this. The coach that's there is there because the guy in front of him got fired. So you're going to be right. And we get all this too. People come on the message board and they say, I told you so. And they almost act like everybody else didn't believe it. You're not saying anything new. Everybody thought this was going to happen. Y'all made fun of me. No, I don't think so. Everybody, is just dependent on how you want to conduct yourself and stuff. So
and there's also other segments of the fan base that go way too far. The sunshine pumpers. There's
no doubt about it. There are some
certain
people
radio
out there
station that was just
right.
equally
as frustrating.
Yeah, because at that point on that side of things, you're just you're not living in reality, and you're kind of questioning the whether this fan base is actually smart enough to be able to decipher and have reading comprehension skills.
Yeah. And everything always has to be black and white. I made a comment back on the Western Kentucky Walk and Talk back in 2019. People saying it's a player problem or it's a coaching problem. It doesn't have to be one or the other. There can be a lot of reasons. Exactly. I used to say that all the time. There's plenty of room under this bus for a lot of people to get under.
Yeah. And a lot of people lose that nuance. It's it's not one thing. It's not two fumbles that are why Sam Pittman lost his job. It's just not. It's everything that led up to those moments. Yeah.
And it's always something though at the end.
All right, Connor.
We got to let you go, buddy.
All right, sounds good.
Time to answer these questions.
Thanks,
Appreciate you, brother. All right, everybody, follow Connor at Connor Goodson on X. HawgSports basketball. Football, of course, does a little bit of everything for us, does a great job. We got to go over the picks from last week. They weren't bad. Okay, so first.
Arkansas's Fab Five for Bet Saracen.
Dude, you ever bet on bowling?
Only if I'm in the tournament.
So you bet on the other team, right?
Hey, this aggression will not stand, man.
Who's gonna lock for Sunday? I need to bring home the bacon.
Not sure about you, but I take comfort knowing those dudes make their plays on Bet Saracen.
Arkansas's favorite sports betting app.
Who is that guy?
Sometimes you eat the bar, sometimes the bar eats you. Not bad. So last week in our picks, we went, I got to bring this up. Here we go. All right. Last week in our picks, we went 3-2. We are now 18-11-1 overall, 18-11-1, and 4-1 picking Arkansas games. Obviously, there wasn't one last week. We had Alabama. We called it reality check weekend. We had Alabama at minus 10.5 against Vanderbilt, and Alabama won 30-14. We won that one. We had Texas A&M at minus 15 against Mississippi State. Texas A&M won that one, 31-9. We had Texas minus 7 at Florida. Florida surprised us, and we lost that one. Florida won 29-21. Iowa State, again, surprised us there. Iowa State was plus 1.5. They lost 38-30. Never. I don't believe they ever led in that game, but they lost 38-30 against Cincinnati in Cincinnati. And then we had Ohio State minus 24 against Minnesota, and Ohio State won 42-3 in that one. 3-2, 18-11-1 overall right now. Go check them out at Bet Saracen, Arkansas's #1 sports betting app. Let's get to the questions now. Let me know how my volume is. I've been tinkering with it a little bit. I don't want to get everything out of sync. So sometimes I have a problem with that. It's been a little bit of an annoyance with StreamYard. J Lee 95 says, other than a win, what would be the most impressive thing you could see out of the team under Petrino this weekend? Effort on defense, largely. Obviously, offense, there's certain things you want to see, execution and all that stuff. But to me, I want to see energy from start to finish. And I know there's going to be lulls and momentum swings and all that stuff. But to me, like if you're watching at home, and I'll be at Knoxville, I'll be at the game, but if you're watching at home, you need to see white jerseys just flying over the pile, effort, running full speed, just what Petrino talked about today. These are things that you cannot afford not to do, especially if you may be lacking talent or something like that. You have to go full speed. And we just have not seen that from the Arkansas defense all year long, especially not out of all 11. We've seen some guys do it, but that's it to me. Like, play with tenacity, play like you care. Don't play like you're worried about getting your jersey dirty. And I asked him about some personnel changes too, So I kind of think there might be some moves up and down the depth chart. Maybe you move a guy from this spot over here, see how he performs, corner safety nickel, all that kind of stuff. But Petrino didn't want to comment on that, which I understand why you wouldn't, but still got to ask the question. Ben Hoggard says, did you get any kind of nostalgic effect during his Tennessee presser? Without question. Obviously, the room is different, and we've had him in there before, but as the head coach, it felt different. Like, it definitely took me back. We used to do those press conferences in a building, in a room that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be there was a Willard Pat Walker something kind of room in the Broyle Center that's not there anymore. But that's the same place that Bobby Petrino's introductory press conference was. It's the same place that Brett Bielema's introductory press conference was also. But yeah, I definitely did. It took me back. And when he walked through the room at 11:59, I looked at my watch. I was like, yep, there he is. Same guy. Pittsburgh Squealer says, T Nasty. These nicknames are getting ridiculous. T Nasty, from what you've been hearing, how many wins does BP need to get to win the job? I'd mentioned that Dabo Sweeney at Clemson went 4-3. I think if he gets you to bowl eligibility, you have to seriously start considering it. If he wins 5, I think he's the head coach. If he gets this team to win 5 games, after everything that's happened, all the changes that need to be made on defense, you see the effort and all that stuff, which you're going to see if they win 5. But if he wins 5, he's the head coach, in my opinion. If he wins 4, serious consideration. That's how I see it. Do you agree or disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. Like, I mean, seriously, if he wins 5 games with the schedule coming up, you guys looked at the schedule, right? Let's bring it up. So obviously we know we got Tennessee coming up. We got Texas A&M and Fayetteville after that. That's 2:30 again. Auburn in Fayetteville, which is going to be an early game, 11 or noon. Mississippi State, which will be an afternoon, 2:30 or 3:30. At LSU, 11 to noon. At Texas, 2:30 to 7. Texas, maybe. Texas isn't playing that well. And then Missouri, 5 to 7 p.m. Like, if you win 4 games, say you beat Texas, okay, let's say the easiest looking games on here right now: Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, and then you beat Missouri and Fayetteville to wrap it all up. Like, you're not going to feel something about that? Beating Texas and Missouri to wrap it up? Winning your last 2? I don't know. So it depends on how it's done, how you win. I mean, like, you start off strong and then you lose your last couple games. Maybe it's not the same kind of feeling. But we're going to see a couple of options. I mean, we may see a team that is completely does not give a damn and wants the season to be over as quickly as possible. That is possible. I mean, you can do all you want to motivate people, but if they're not willing to be motivated, then you're not going to get the results that you want. So it's possible that we see that. It's possible that we see an offense that rekindle some stuff that they had before, which we know can be very good. We know this offense is capable of being very good. Taylor Green tends to hit a lull for 7 plays or so in the middle of a game, every game. But if you can get around that and your defense can get you a stop here and there, defense can be a little bit better. Just be a little bit better defense. Like we talked all offseason about the offense be pretty good. What if the defense could be average? They're going to beat some people if they could do that. That would probably fall in line with the 8-win scenario that we laid out. But now we're on the path of maybe 4 wins at best. I may have overshot that when I said they'll win 4 games or they'll win 8 and nothing in between. I may have overshot that. And people, like, there have been people that have been frustrated with me because after I was probably the most bugged in the after the game, after that Ole Miss game. And I wasn't as bugged after the Memphis game or the Notre Dame game. Like those are games like people saying, "Where's the anger? Why aren't you mad?" Well, that was pretty much just after the Ole Miss game because I knew from that moment like where this thing was probably going to be headed. Like there was a good chance because this thing went wrong, this thing went bad with the scenarios that I laid out. All right, hangover coming against Memphis now because you almost won and you got your hearts ripped out and you didn't take it right. You dwelled on it too long, and then you lose against Memphis. I thought at least a lackluster showing against Memphis, but bad enough to lose that game. And because of that, you come home in front of your home fans and do what you have done so many times and get your doors absolutely blown off and get embarrassed once again in Fayetteville. Like, I'm not saying that Arkansas should beat Notre Dame, but I am saying that they shouldn't get humiliated in their own backyard as an SEC program, which eventually led to the firing of Sam Pittman, which unfortunately for Sam is justified. Like, I didn't want it to happen to him, but you cannot keep getting your ass kicked at home game after game after game when fans keep showing up. They see you playing on the road and you're playing teams to one score over and over again. You come back home and just get annihilated. What is that? Why did that keep happening to him? Why could they go on the road and play almost well enough to win and then come home in front of the fans? I mean, a ton of games. There are so many examples of this happening and just get the floor wiped with them. The floor wiped with them. Macho Ham says, why can't our leadership get on the same page and do what's right for the program? Haven't they learned from the past 30 years that hiring your buddy is never a good business model? Who's hiring his buddy? I don't know. Bielema always talked about that and how he never wanted to do that. But I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about Petrino hiring Haynes? I mean, I don't think he had a lot of options. If that's what you're talking, I don't know what you're talking about, Macho. Big Daddy Bacon says, Big Daddy Bacon, God, we got some good names. Do you anticipate seeing any, like I'll just say that like in stride, then I hear myself say it. Do you anticipate seeing any players in this game we have not seen play meaningful minutes this year? I think it's possible that we could see Courtney Crutchfield playing notable minutes because obviously you had Jalen Brown, he's out with a broken leg, double fracture. So him, and then maybe we see like an Andrew Harris. Maybe the new guys come in like, this guy can really hit. Maybe we give him a shot. Maybe we see Wyatt Simmons. I don't know. Maybe somebody made this suggestion. I think it was DJ Williams when I was on with the show with the Zone. He was like, what about maybe moving Steven Dix down to the line of scrimmage, letting him come off the edge, seeing how that works? Because he's not had a very good year so far. But he's really put together. He's strong. Maybe. Mr. Pig says, does having Arkansas ties actually matter to a meaningful degree or for any Arkansas coaching candidate? I, for one, think it's overblown given the amount of high school talent the state produces, I suppose. I mean, it didn't matter with Bobby Petrino. He didn't have any Arkansas ties. Nick Saban didn't have any ties at Alabama. But for a long time at Alabama, they wanted people who were Bear Bryant disciples under that tree. It didn't work out for them well. Mike DeBose, for example. Michigan always talks about Michigan man. They want Michigan man. So does it matter? I mean, if in-state recruiting were just outrageously good, it'd probably matter more. But I'm not focused on that about having a guy with – I want somebody that wants this job, that like covets the job. Like this is a destination job for them. And a lot of times that means in-state guys. Petrino, I think the nostalgia that he has, remembering how things were, the state was great to him. I mean, because he won, obviously, but you would have been hard-pressed to find anybody that wasn't all on board with Bobby Petrino back in the day. Maybe people would complain about Willie Robinson and stuff, but I think you'd take Willie Robinson back in those days any day of the week. Army of Nabunga says, why are black olives sold in cans and the green ones and fancy ones in jars? Is it a law in Italy? It's a great question. I mean, it's completely off topic and has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But that is something that I've actually have never thought about and is really interesting. Army of Nabunga is a very interesting human being. Junkyard Hog says, if the right hire was vetted and available and Bobby doesn't win or compete the first couple, can you see a hire? No, I don't think that'll happen. I think the soonest you would see a hire made, out of respect also for the people out there working and trying to get the job done, I think the earliest you would see that is after the season is over, immediately after, if they had their guy in mind. Hogtalica says, what is your favorite music artist and favorite movie of all time? My favorite music artist. It's probably Sturgill Simpson. If I go through the whole library of it, probably Sturgill. I was always going way back childhood. I would listen to Sam Cooke with my dad all the time. I loved Sam Cooke. I really did. 2025 Sturgill Simpson probably. I mean, there's so many different genres, obviously, that you'd have. I love the way Lady Gaga sings. I think Lady Gaga may have the best vocal range and tone of just about anybody out there. And the fact she writes all of her own stuff, she's super talented. I don't listen to a lot of Lady Gaga, but I just respect her as a musician. I don't always follow along with everything that, Scarlett Johansson, I think she's gorgeous. She kind of bugs me a little bit. You know what I mean? So you have an appreciation for certain things, but I would say Sturgill. I always like Tupac, Bone Thugs, 666, 3-6 Mafia, 666, 3-6 Mafia. I'm just thinking of different genres. George Strait, big George Strait fan. Travis Tritt, so on and so forth. Story of the Year says, when will Whiskey Drunk get back on the show? We'll have Whiskey Drunk on again. He provides some good fan energy. I always like having Keith on. He's got his hands in a lot of different pots, but he'll, when he nudges me and says, hey, I think it's time, I'm ready to come back on. I don't think he has the time to come on regularly like he used to, but he'll nudge me every once in a while. We'll get him back. Hogtalica says, it is often said you can't judge a coach based on his first year. I firmly agree with that. If so, then doesn't it seem unfair to expect Petrino to win a bunch of games immediately in order to get the full-time job? I think this case is probably a little bit different considering he is an interim coach. He is not the head coach. I think it's just what it is. This happens to be an audition. Dabo auditioned for the job. Barry Lunny auditioned for the job. Joe Kynes auditioned. Reggie Herring tried to audition. Grant Hall came up to me today when we were leaving. He was like, Arkansas used to have this guy named Reggie Herring, and I was like, yeah, Grant, I know. I was here. I was here for that. He was like, oh, I can't remember. I was like, we used to do the huddle together, Grant, back in 2004. Thorhog says, how confident are you the next head coach will have resources he needs to succeed and win? I don't know yet. I know that Hunter had a lot of big talk about it. He's talking like they're going to have advanced scouting in place. They're going to have the resources needed, the salary, the support. NIL isn't as bad as people think is what he said. I don't know what he was getting with the 500,000. I mean, it is a different landscape. I really hope that we move away from this NIL model and the revenue sharing is real. That's what I hope. I'm not sold that it's going to be. I think people will always find loopholes, ways to cheat. And if they're hamstrung on their, NIL stuff, they'll find ways to cheat. It's always happened in college football. People can say it hasn't, but it has. Teams have paid players. I mean, that's the understatement of the year. It's always happened. It's happened on a much bigger scale now that it's legal, but they have got to change this. What NIL is not. It's not NIL. It's pay for play. The fact that it's under the guise of name, image, and likeness when it's just pay for play. Like, you guys seeing a lot of these commercials for all these players, they posting a bunch of stuff. I went through and looked the other day at like some Instagrams and TikTok accounts with some of the players. You seeing a bunch of commercials and stuff. Like, I mean, I know some of this is charity based, but like, you hearing about a bunch of charity stuff and autograph signings and things like that. I don't. Like, where's the name, image, and likeness part? Because it just feels like we're paying players. That's what we're doing. The fact that we're going to act like it's anything other than that is the main problem in college football. We've got to get to a point where these players are employees. And I know the players don't want it. Schools don't want it. As Greg Sankey was saying a couple years ago. But these players need to be employees of the school. And if you do it somehow through this revenue sharing model, whatever. But the NIL stuff has got to, it's got to cease in some kind of way. It's got to cease in the sense of pay for play. Like, if somebody thinks that this guy can sell soft drinks and we can put him in a commercial, that's one thing. That is NIL. If we want this player to be part of a video game, which is where this whole thing started with Ed O'Bannon. Thanks, Ed. And I get it. Like, you're entitled. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's just we wanted our video games not to go away. But Ed O'Bannon started this whole thing, and it was based around the video game. His name, his image, his likeness was being portrayed in the video game, and he was not seeing any revenue whatsoever for it. I agree totally with that. I wanted to play the game, though. So that's where we've got to get. Like, this NIL it's just a ridiculous structure right now. And I'm all for these guys getting money, getting paid. I mean, they're out there risking their health. And, I know there's a lot of other benefits like being in college and getting your scholarship money and all that stuff. But football has gotten to, and basketball too, has gotten to a point where there's so much money. I mean, people were talking about paying Rhett Lashley $9 million. Like, the money's there. It's $8.5 to $9 million. It's right there for Rhett Lashley. And somebody was saying, well, that's way too much. Pay somebody else and then, use the money for NIL and do this way, and you go look at the salaries for SEC coaches, $9 million, $8.5 million, $9 million. That's right in the middle of the road. That's a normal SEC salary, $9 million, middle. I can remember it was not that long ago when Nick Saban was at LSU, and he was the first $2 million coach. When Houston Nutt flirted with Nebraska, the whole thing, I don't think he ever really wanted to leave, but he leveraged that job, and he got his salary boosted up to $1 million. $1 million. When Reggie Herring was hired at Arkansas for $300,000, he was the first big-time salaried assistant coach. Everybody else up until then was getting about $100,000. Even a coordinator was getting $100,000. Did not pay your assistant coaches very much. People always talk about stuff like Houston Nutt, like, well, he didn't ever hire anybody that did this or that. Well, they were all getting very low salaries to coach at Arkansas. And Reggie Herring get $300,000. That was a big deal when that happened. Now, coordinators get at least $1 million, $1.5 million, sometimes more at some schools. But $1.5 million for a coordinator is not out of the realm of possibility. Things have changed a lot. Jurassic Pork says, do you think having Petrino on the sidelines instead of the booth will be better for the offense? It'll be better for the whole team, I think. I wasn't a big fan of him going into the booth. I liked seeing him on the sideline, but I don't know. We'll see. I think only Turner will be the only one upstairs. They're going to have Colby Smith still down on the sideline, even though he's technically the offensive coordinator. So we'll see how it all works out. I like having eyes in the sky. I like the dynamic they had, with Bobby on the sideline and Paul Petrino, upstairs. Jurassic Pork says, a bit of an off topic, but do you see artificial intelligence, AI, taking over responsibility for coordinators by creating plays or design concepts to beat specific teams' plays? Possibly. I mean, the AI stuff that I deal with every day is still very stupid. Like I was just seeing, like, if Grok, I had a picture of Bobby Petrino and a picture of Josh Heupel, and I was like, hey, Grok, can you combine these two photos? Because I always crop them out and create this thumbnail and stuff. It takes some time to do. I was like, can you combine these two subjects in this photo? And it took two perfectly, two people, and it made them different people, and it made them like hugging, like up close, like almost a romantic hug. I was just like, that's not, I was just like, WTF. What are you doing? What are you even doing here, Grok? Not what I want at all. But they say, like, the Super Grok thing, which is like $300 a month, is smarter in basically every academic category than 97% of people in that field, which is outrageous. So, yes, AI eventually taking over certain responsibilities. I don't know about for coordinators or creating plays and all that kind of stuff. But maybe you bounce some ideas off AI, maybe. I think that's possible. I think you use it, the analytics or stuff or stuff like that. But I will ask, like, Grok some stuff when I'm driving or something. I'll be like, hey, Grok, what can you tell me about this? And it'll come up with some crazy stuff, like stuff that I know for a fact is not even close to true, and stuff that it just assumes and makes up. So we're not there yet, but we'll get there. Man of Squeal says, do you think our defensive strategy for this game will be to sell out, stop the run, overmatched defenses will often? I think you have to stop the run first. I think you have to take a team's confidence away that they can run the ball. I've always thought that. Overmatched defenses will often try to take away either the run or the pass. Bobby has mentioned stopping the run as a focus to start with. Yeah, I think that's where you start. You try to stop the run. If they beat you in the passing game, then it happens. But I think I want to see, like, to me, the defense that goes full speed, plays physical. And if you do that, then you'll make plays here and there. I mean, you're going to give up some stuff. I don't have a problem with giving up plays on defense, especially this defense. But make some plays. Make some. Give up some. Make some. Like, to me, like, they're going to score eventually if you don't make a play on defense. So give up some plays, make some plays. Making a big play on defense is going to result in a stop. So maybe you don't do it every time, and that's fine. If you got an offense good enough. I mean, obviously, yeah, we'd all love to see a juggernaut defense out there that nobody can run or pass on, but that's just not realistic. It's the goal. Packing a Hog 54 says, are we sure we want Rhett Lashley? I don't think we're sure. Feels like a bit of fool's gold. Underwhelming recruiting, average offensive output, below average defense. Benefited from a favorable schedule and a weak conference. I mean, it was their first year in the ACC, and they almost won the conference. They made it to the college football playoff. They're at SMU, so I wouldn't expect the recruiting to be outrageously good. They haven't been good enough so far this year. But I don't think that, like, I see a lot of people that feel that way about Rhett Lashley. It's like, no, I don't. That's not where I want to go. Why is Arkansas interviewing candidates that have no real shot at the job? I don't think that all this is true. I think maybe you had a young guy that didn't really verify any stuff and wants to get some information out. Been wondering about an article posted late last week about Hunter Yurachek being poached by the SEC. Any insight? I have heard people say that he would be interested in coaching in working in the SEC. And also know that Hunter, eventually down the road, he probably wants to move back to the East Coast and retire there. I don't know if, like, to me, like, I don't know if that's changed with him or not, but, like, you should want to retire here. Like, this is where you make your mark. This is where you should want to retire. I just think Arkansas is a good enough job for an athletic director that it should feel like a destination type of place. I think that Arkansas is capable of more than they've shown. I really do. I just think we do things sometimes. I don't know. It just feels like we miss the mark too many times, and a lot of that's just about people. Petrino seemed to figure it out when he was here. Petrino was the head coach of Western Kentucky in 2013 when they played Tennessee at Neyland Stadium. I don't think so. I think that his only time at Neyland was 2023. I want to see that because I asked him about that today. They played at Tennessee. Holy crap, they sure did. He must have forgot. Yeah, because I asked him if he played there when he was offensive coordinator at Auburn. I asked him if he'd played there. I knew he didn't play there at Arkansas because I knew Tennessee had just come here. And they played I knew that they played there in 2023. But, yeah, they sure did. They played there at Western Kentucky, his second game there. Good call. Good call, Hogtalica. Boar says USC, Clemson, Florida, Penn State, Auburn, LSU, Baylor, Wisconsin, Florida State, Bama all have coaches on a warm to hot seat. Would you rather take a big name retread or a non-P4 up-and-comer? I wouldn't want a big name retread, no. But also don't think that Clemson, Penn State, LSU, or Alabama are going to have any kind of change with their coach. I mean, Kalen DeBoer has a $70 million buyout, and he's in year 2. So that ain't happening, no matter how much they want to win. All right, everybody, let's talk about this one more time. But HawgSports, 2 months for $1. This is the last day, Monday, 10/6/25. The last day you can get 2 months for $1 at HawgSports. There's no promo code at all. Just go to HawgSports.com. Sign up and you'll get the deal. Select the monthly plan and you'll get the deal. You can also do this if you want to get 75% off for the entire year. We're going to keep that one going. 75% off for the entire year. That breaks down to $30 for the entire year. You will need the promo code HAWG H-A-W-G, search, altogether, 75. Altogether. No, case sensitive. It's not case sensitive. So HawgSearch 75, select the annual, enter that promo code, and you can get the 75% off deal. 2 months for $1. That expires tonight at 11 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Thanks to Connor Goodson for joining us. Thanks to Danny West as well, and appreciate the questions. People who support us through subscriptions, people who support us through watching the show. We appreciate all of you. We'd love for all of you to subscribe at HawgSports and really support what we do. And that's it. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday with the primer, and then I'll be in Neyland Stadium walking off. Who knows what I'll be walking off, but it'll be the walk and talk from Neyland Stadium. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.